One of the really pleasant things about doing this project was working with Jerry, the director. He's got such great ideas. His background, he's one of the most brilliant horror cinematographers in the business, and he's comes up with such terrific ideas, and it was such a pleasure for me to. Sometimes it's just a challenge for a director of photography to work for another director of photography, but this one turned out to be such a pleasure, and Jerry was a joy to work with.
Jerry was phenomenal. You know, he's very knowledgeable. You know, he's very patient. You know, very patient with the cast and the crew. He knows what he wants. He knows what he wants to get out of his actors and actresses, and I think that's what makes a really great director.
Jerry is. He's like this guy that you think at first, oh, I don't know if I'm going to like him or not. He might be too hard on me. And then after about a week, I realized he never raises his voice. He never gives you a hard time. When you make a mistake, all he really does is he walks towards you with that look and he says your name, and that's all you need to know.
It was just a great experience, and I hope to work with North Shore and Jerry again. Jerry's amazing. I feel like he's just wonderful.
Well, it's been a real pleasure and an honor to work with Jerry Lively. The man is a saint. I swear, he's awesome. Great guy to work with, fun. His passion and drive just kind of keep everybody going when it's 3, 4, 5, 6 in the morning. You know, it's really an honor to work with him. Kind of the opposite of working with John Wanacue.
Jerry is great. I'm Jerry's assistant director. I'm a producer. I'm the production manager. So I'm wearing a lot of hats, even though I'm not wearing a hat. It's great. I've learned a lot from Jerry. He's learned a lot from me. I think he's learned more from me than me from him.
The way I perceive and now look at Pittsburgh, having come up from Los Angeles, I was here some months ago working on an entirely different picture, and I didn't really know. In fact, it was my first time ever in Pittsburgh, so I didn't know anything about it. And the most astonishing thing would happen when I would go back to my hotel in the evening, and I would go to close the curtains in my bedroom, and I would look out onto the city below, and the whole of the downtown city was lit up by an enormous amount of film lights. And that was due to the fact that Tom Cruise was here shooting a huge movie. And as a consequence, I delved a little bit more into the history of filmmaking here, and I was very pleasantly surprised to find out that there is an awful lot of filming going on here. One, great locations, good working personnel, but I suppose production-wise or producer-wise, when it comes to working here, producers look at the bottom line, and Pennsylvania, especially Pittsburgh, is offering such good deals to come here tax-wise. So, and I now know that in the last few years, an awful lot of films have been made here. And as I say, one, because of the tax deals, and two, because of the very, very wide scope of locations that one can find. Like, for instance, in downtown, you could make that fill in for almost anywhere. New York, for instance, you know, any of the big metropolitan cities throughout the United States. And yet, 10 miles up the road, you can be out to rivers, lakes, complete, utter tree-lined hills and beautiful forests. So in that respect, it has an awful lot to offer, does Pittsburgh and Pennsylvania as a whole.
Well, Pittsburgh's obviously got a lot going for it. In addition to just the attractiveness of some of the tax incentives, the area's just got so many choices as far as locations. Just having we shot on a fairly good variety of locations on this movie, but just traveling around and seeing the city, seeing some of the areas surrounding the city, it's just amazing how many beautiful locations there are in this area around the city. It could pass for a dozen or 100 different types of locations. It's got deep forests, it's got rivers, it's got urban settings, it has tall buildings, it's got rural farm buildings, and the variety here is incredible. I can't think of a lot of projects that I've worked on that wouldn't be suitable to be shot in or around Pittsburgh.
If you were to ask me what my worst experience was, having come from Hollywood, where I've been making films there for over 20 years, I suppose the situation with regard to the weather. Here we are in Pittsburgh, or just outside Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, shooting in virtually a deserted area in Moon Township, and we would be suddenly deluged by the most tropical downpours, storms of rain, which made us come to a complete and utter grinding halt, simply because we had a lot of electrical equipment outside, and as everybody knows, electricity and water don't quite mix. So that was the most horrifying aspect of working here.
The rain, the weather. We couldn't really beat it. We couldn't get around it. Canceled a couple night shoots. Really, I mean, pardon the pun, but rained on our parade a few times. Got sent home. In fact, last night we only shot for like 2 hours because of the rain. The rain has been terrible. We have not been on the sides of those from above.
The hardest parts, man, of this movie, there was a few moments, but definitely soldiering through the weather, with the lightning storms and the downpours, but everybody just pulled together, and we all soldiered through it and made it happen. Other than that, everything ran pretty smoothly.
It's just been an reoccurring thing is being stuck out in the rain, man, and having to deal with lights and poles that are sticking like 8 feet up in the air.
While looking up at the sky during these storms, it was almost like a show that had been put on by a CGI, a computer-generated company, when these astonishing flashes would occur. But as our gaffer had said to us, here we have a condor, a big crane with our lights stuck up into the air by 50 feet, and the closest thing to the lightning. So we had to stop on 3 or 4 occasions, which put us behind the 8 ball, as you say here in America.
Considering all the limitations that we had as far as weather and time is always a problem when you're doing a movie like this. And I think, all things considered, I think we did a solid job.
I ordered some fake hands from Japan. Supposed to be here on July 14th. Well, I got them this morning, which is August, 8th?
The hardest part was switching from a normal person to a nocturnal creature of the night. Like going to bed at 7:30 in the morning, sleeping all day, eating at night. My stomach's been a mess for the past 3 weeks. That was the hardest part, and kind of putting everything aside and focusing on this is always a little bit tough, but that's why we're here, So it's an honor to be here, and whatever it takes.
I kept looking around my fellow workers and thinking, we're all like a bunch of kids doing what we always wanted to do. And no one's questioning that anymore. It's just like we're accepting the fact we're a bunch of kids and we're out to have fun. And even when things get rough and people get mad at each other, it's like kids. 2 minutes later, they're over it and we're moving on. And I've never experienced that in any other crew I've worked with, or any other kind of work crew.
We had some challenges. One of the things that I was a little concerned about was coming out, working with a crew that I hadn't worked with. As it turned out, everybody was terrific. Everybody worked so hard and put in so many hours, and it was just amazing how conscientious and hardworking everybody was.
I would be inclined to say some of my most memorable and favourite moments were working within the haunted house, being able to manipulate the various rooms within that house to give us a sense of like a maze that our cast were wandering through in order to get them into a frightening stage, and working again with the crew that they gave me and surrounded me with were all incredibly pleasant people.
I think my favorite, which is so crazy, I would never think this was my favorite because I thought it was so this is stupid when I'm reading the script. But the campfire outside was really fun because it was all of us before anyone died. And we were all together and just bonding. And
I had a blast, and definitely something I'll never forget. Never forget the rest of my life.
No, it's been great fun, and I'm looking forward to the next one.
hello, my love. How are you?